relationships are never complicated. It's the people who make it complicated.
What is that one thing that you notice that is actually breaking the relationship slowly? And I believe that most of us are also doing the same mistake.
I think one reason why a lot of relationship break is not lack of love, but lack of communication.
Most of the time, communication itself becomes villain to the relationship, because when people communicate, the problems escalate even more. What is the right way to communicate with your partner?
So, speaking without attacking, responding without exhibiting any kind of blame, that will help communication flow smoothly and build a very deep relationship. There's a beautiful saying that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. See, in a relationship, it should never be you versus me. In any game, if you defeat the other person, you win. In a relationship, you defeat the other person, both of you lose.
Hello everyone. Well, this is the most awaited podcast for me because now I finally have as my guest today my husband, who talks a lot on relationship. Well, I've seen him help so many people, work on their relationship, which was just fizzling out, getting them together again. When I've seen him do so many things and when I've attended those sessions with him, I felt like there's so much in a relationship. There's so much that partners have to do to be together, to be understanding, to be supporting. And I thought finally I'll get him onto my podcast so that people will also benefit from it, and also will have a nice conversation with him on relationship. I think that's my favorite topic after attending so many sessions with him. Well, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, my love.
I'm so excited for this podcast. How about you?
I'm very nervous.
Why?
I don't know whether I'll be able to match your expectations or not.
No. I think you're perfect. The way you give answers, the way you talk about relationship with all the experience that you have working with so many couples. The question is, you work with so many couples, right? What is that one thing that you notice that is actually breaking the relationship slowly? And I believe that most of us are also doing the same mistake, over a period of time, and we don't realize it until unless it gets to that point where it's just breaking.
I think one reason why a lot of relationship break is not lack of love, but lack of communication.
Okay.
Because a relationship begins with attraction. You're attracted to what the other person has or what you want the other person to have. There is some communication gap that sits in, and slowly it leads to a lack of alignment. So relationships break because of lack of alignment, and that happens because of lack of communication.
Most of the time, communication itself becomes villain to the relationship, because it feels so hard to communicate anything with the partner, because when people communicate, the problems escalate even more. So what to do at that time? Like, what is proper communication in a relationship? Not many people talk about communication, communicate like this, communicate like that. What is the right way to communicate with your partner?
See, in a relationship, it should never be you versus me. In any game, if you defeat the other person, you win. In a relationship, you defeat the other person, both of you lose. So when you're communicating with your partner, you should speak in such a way that it is easy for the other person to listen. You should not attack the other person. When you respond also, you respond in such a way that you exhibit support. So speaking without attacking, responding without exhibiting any kind of blame, that will help communication flow smoothly and build a very deep relationship. Because deep inside, everybody wants to be heard, seen without being judged.
True.
And if the partner cannot provide that safe space for the other person to be themselves, then more communication causes more conflict.
Sure. Thank you so much for that. I think that's the question that I received from a lot of my friends, telling that as well. The moment they try to communicate, a lot of things goes a different way than they had expected. One framework that can help couples connect more to each other.
I call it the 3C framework. The first C is check-in. How are you feeling today? Maybe you've been to the same movie, maybe you lived in the same house, maybe you had the same kind of work, but the way people perceive their world is different. It has got almost nothing to do with what is happening outside. So how are you feeling today is a good question to ask. Number 2 is ask, what did I do today that you really loved? How did you feel loved today? Number 3 is, did I knowingly, unknowingly cause any ill feelings to you? Did I ignore you? Did I misunderstand you? So create that space for what you like, what you don't like on a daily basis, and ask each other, how can we improve together? How can we support each other better? This simple 3-step formula works wonders. Check in, clarity, and going a little deep to help each other evolve.
Lovely. Now the relationships are kind of complicated. That's how people term it. Earlier it was so safe, so easy, but now it feels so complicated. The same marriage, the same love, the partner that you yourself have chosen. Why is that? Is it because we've become more aware about our feelings or more aware about what we want in life? Or is it because we're just consuming a lot of nonsense that we shouldn't, because somehow that also indirectly affects our relationship with the person that we have? So what's the difference that you think is happening right now, and why people are using that it's complicated term?
Number 1, to dismiss what you said, relationships are never complicated. It's the people who make it complicated. Our relationship with others is a direct reflection of our relationship with ourselves. Like you rightly said somewhere, if you're watching too much information either from social media or TVs or movies, you tend to identify yourself with a part of that movie, a part of that character, and you tend to interpret the other person from that lens. That is when it becomes complicated. Relationships are meant to bring healing. Relationships are meant to bring harmony. Relationships are meant to help you grow faster than you would go alone. There's a beautiful saying that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yes, and I think that also applies to the relationship and the business partnership you have. Okay, one personal question. Well, we've been working together, as business partners. We are life partners as well. How much important do you think it is to have that one vision in one area of your life with the partner, or doing one thing in your life where your partner is also helping you out with that? Because nowadays what I see mostly is, husband is doing his own thing, wife is doing her own thing, and they come together only when at night or when it's needed or when they want to speak to each other. How important do you think they should take up one hobby together and go forward in it, or one vision or one goal to take it and move forward in it?
It is not necessary that they should have one common goal. It is beautiful if they have one, but what they need to have common is respect for each other's interests.
Okay.
Maybe I love cricket, maybe you don't like stepping outside at all, but if you can respect and support my interest to pursue my hobby, you are allowing me to blossom fully. That is more important. Any relationship will sustain if you have a common vision, if you have common values, if you are able to appreciate each other's contribution to the shared vision. That is more important than trying to figure out whether you like what I like or not, you hate what I hate or not. It is absolutely okay. It's your ability to make space for that difference and listen patiently to the other person that will help improve any relationship.
I also remember you telling in the beginning of our relationship that beautiful line: the biggest gift that you can give your partner is the freedom to be themselves, the freedom that they can have to pursue their own interest, right? I think that did stick with me till this, this far. Okay, there are a few questions that I have gotten Reddit, and I'll be asking you that. Your job is to give them some answers. My girlfriend, who is 23 female, seems genuinely disgusted by my interest, and I, 25 male, am starting to feel ashamed of myself. How do I address this in my relationship?
It's a very valid point that you brought to our attention during this conversation. In any relationship, if the other person makes you feel small, when the relationship is not going in the right direction. The purpose of a relationship is to enhance your personality, is to expand your vision, is to enable you to experience life in greater depth. It is okay if the other person does not have the same interest, but he should have respect for your interests. So in such situations, what you can do is have a conversation. Let them know that it is important for you to have their support.
Lovely. There's a question is like this. I wish my boyfriend would think to do things on his own without me having to tell him all the time. And that's the question I wanted to ask you. How do we talk to partners on things that they have to do on their own? Because we cannot be their teachers or we cannot be their mothers telling them what to do all the time for us, right? So how do we have that soft communication with them, or a bit of hint like, you got to do this thing without me telling you all the time?
See, a relationship evolves through several stages. In the beginning of a relationship, you are all by yourself, and it is very important to feel complete by yourself. That is when you tend to contribute more to the relationship. A beautiful relationship is where two complete people come together so that they can contribute to a bigger vision. If two incomplete people come together, they only express over-dependency on others. So in such situation, you should have a conversation, understand what the other person likes doing, doesn't like doing, understand where the other person needs support, where the other person appreciates freedom. That is when you will be able to move along faster.
With this, there's this one question that most of the girls had asked me. They love their boyfriend, and probably they're more serious about that person. But the moment he does something that they don't like, or whether it can be a big thing as well, like, whether it is maybe drinking or a smoking, they start hating them completely. Like, the shift is so fast, like they themselves cannot understand, like, why is this happening with me? The moment they see him doing that, there's just a sense of disgust or the sense of no connection there. Why does that happen? Like, from being loved to just being disconnected so easily. Why does it happen in moments so much?
It's a very powerful question. Most people go through this. That is because they don't have alignment of values from the beginning.
Okay.
You tend to get attracted to a person who is like you or like whom you want to be. So you see only 1, 2 or 3 qualities and get attracted. But for you to really be committed for a long time, you need to accept the imperfections of the other person. That is when love blossoms. If this room is clean, it is not because of the broomstick, it is also because of the dustbin. So there must be some room for imperfections in every couple's lives. If those imperfections are non-negotiable, then you should not have started the relationship in the first place. If you have started, it's absolutely alright to walk out.
But how much time do you think that the couple should take to get to know each other? Because just now you said that you should have not just started the relationship in the first place. How would they know? What are the frameworks, or what do they know in the beginning? Okay, this is the person that I think I can go long term with.
There's a beautiful saying that says, keep playing with the wrong ones until you find the right one.
Okay, yeah.
It's like you go to a footwear, you try a couple of them, you wear one, and then you walk around, you sit, you move, you jump, you like it, you continue. You don't like it, you come back and replace it. In a similar manner, you cannot expect one relationship to fulfill all the experiences that you want to have in life. So before you get into a serious relationship, before you get into a commitment for the rest of your life, spend at least a year working with them, traveling with them. It doesn't happen in cinema halls, it doesn't happen over a cup of coffee in a cafe, it doesn't happen over fancy restaurants. It happens when you really do some deep work, when you get out on the field and do something, when you walk together, when you talk without having a goal to please the other person. So at least a year doing what your parents would have done in their first year after marriage. If you can do that before marriage, you get a fair idea of what is allowed, what is not allowed, what is tolerated, what is appreciated. That is when you are ready to commit your life to the other person.
But in this Indian system especially, will they be allowed to experiment so much? Because I remember a lot of my relatives telling, now you guys have got engaged. You guys should just get married in next 3 months or 6 months or 5 months. Not longer than that. Because the longer you go, then you tend to hate the other person or make a lot of things in your head. Is that even possible to figure it out in a year with that person in this Indian system?
It's a very deep question. I don't know whether I'll be able to answer to your question in as much depth as possible, but my point is pretty same. Before you take up a job, you do at least 2 or 3 rounds of interview. Before you accept somebody as your life partner, why don't you spend an year? That is an year of self-discovery. That is an year to explore what you really love doing. Because all these years you've been conditioned by your parents, your neighbors, your school teachers, your college teachers, maybe the person who is paying you at the office. For once, when you want to commit to a life, see if you really share a common vision, if you really have common values, if you can really make space for conflicts without making the other person feel bad or low.
It's true.
Take time. When you take time to build something, it stands through time. When you hurry, it will bury.
I like that line. Okay, so the other question that I had for you was, when we as a person get into a relationship, we see the part of us we thought we would never see, especially the shortcomings that we have, the patterns that we have carried, and it somewhere reflects in our relationship with that person. How important it is for us to heal and understand ourselves before we get into a relationship. I would like to ask you that, because sometimes a traumatic person, a person who's gone through a lot, no matter whatever they get or what kind of relationship they get, they tend to ruin it, and then they feel again guilty. It's just like a trap. They're on the loop again and again doing the same thing. So how important it is to heal ourselves, and how can a partner support you in that journey?
How important it is to wash a plate before you have food.
Very important.
So is the importance of healing before you get into a relationship with others. You can have the best milk, but if the vessel is not clean, it can spoil it in a minute. And what is in our control is our relationship, our values, our beliefs. If we had a bad childhood, if we had bad memories, if we had bad experiences, they will reflect in the relationship. Because the relationship is nothing less than a mirror. You tend to see what you want to see in the other person. Sometimes you tend to see what you don't want to see in you in other person. So it is important to heal ourselves, and healing is a continuous process. It is not that somebody presses a button, heals completely. It is not that somebody presses a button, heals completely and then gets ready for marriage. Healing is a continuous process. You have to make space for healing in every relationship, especially the romantic relationships. The wife wants to see a father in the husband. The husband wants to see a mother in the wife. It is okay. Make space for it. If not every day, at least once in a week or once in a month. That is when the relationship will blossom.
Very well said. My friend was asking this question about her relationship. They've been married for a couple of years. And she's been telling me that, we have so many fights. Like sometimes it just feels like, I just want to leave everything and just go away. Just want to be alone. They've been trying to talk it out a lot, solve a lot of things, but it just turns up into fight again and again. And now she's at the point where she does not know whether to leave him or to stay. What do you think at that point that couple should do? Whether they should consult a therapist or consult a coach or consult somebody who's experienced? Because I believe relationship is different for everybody, right? So what should they do at this moment when they feel like, whether they want to leave or stay?
First of all, my heart goes for the woman who wants to fight for that relationship. And that shows that she's somebody who's got the guts, she's somebody who's got the courage, somebody who's got the commitment. If she wanted to leave, she would have left long back.
Sure.
To help her, I would like her to consider 3 simple questions. Who is she trying to blame? What is she trying to fight? And what is the future that she envisions with this person? Once you have answers to these questions, who is she blaming, what is she fighting for, and what is the future that she envisions for both of them together. Then it will be easy for her to take the next step. In a relationship, if it is you versus me, you lost it. Like I said somewhere in the beginning, in any game, if you win, you celebrate.
But not in the relationship.
But not in the relationship. Because if you win, you lose the person.
True.
And a relationship does not exist if the other person doesn't exist. In a relationship, the beautiful situation is us versus the problem, us versus the goal, us versus the challenge. So you separate the problem from the person. So that is when you stop blaming.
That's nice.
What you're fighting for is not to prove you're right or you're better or you're first. What you're fighting for is how we can be at more peace, we can have more happiness. And you operate from a fear of losing something, or you operate from a space of hope of creating something better. So when you have a vision that is drawing you towards it, it is worth fighting it. When you have a fear that is holding you back, it is worth letting go. So I would say to that person, stop blaming, start understanding the problem and see how you can solve it. Create a vision that is worth dying for, not a fear that pushes you to go beyond what is comfortable to you.
Lovely. So the next question, which is a bit opposite to that, is a girl, she's also my friend, ex-colleague. She's perfect. Well, she earns well. She does cooking. She's a very jolly person. She's like a joy, that bubble. But she never had a proper relationship. What I mean by that is like she's feeling so hard to be in a relationship. She's feeling so hard to be with a person, despite of being so jolly and so nice, loving, caring person. Why do you think it happens to most of the women who are on the other side, living their life?
See, relationship is a space for you to give. When you don't have much to give, you tend to feel insignificant. For this person who is successful in his or her own right, you said she is happy, she is healthy, she is successful, she is joyful, she is bubbly, probably she doesn't have much to give. Because in a relationship, you got to give, you also got to take. When you give generously, as if the whole world is yours. To give, for them to take. When you take graciously. So if you know how to give and take in a relationship, that relationship will flourish. If you only keep giving, the other person will become a parasite. If you only keep taking, you will become a parasite. So it is difficult for you to live in a relationship where one person is parasite. A relationship flourishes when there is symbiosis. When both of you are able to help each other achieve something bigger, experience something deeper. So that will take some kind of an effort from this person.
Sure. Okay, last two questions that I have for you for today. I don't want to dump every question that I have on you. So one question is, when people have relationship issues, whom should they go to? A consultant, an experienced person, a coach, or a mentor, or just follow their gut? What do you think in this fight?
Again, a very powerful question, because today there is plenty of advice available everywhere. You click on social media, you will get tons of advice. See, there are three ways in which life can get transformed. One is information, which is available everywhere. Social media, the Instagram, the Facebook, the YouTube. The number two is your own experience. What does your experience say? And the last and most important is your intuition. While there is plenty of information available, keep it. Don't take it fully. Ask yourself, how was your last experience in this situation with this person? And also rely on your intuition. So information alone will not help. Information coupled with your own experience and your own intuition, which comes from within, without any prompt. These three things will help anybody sail through tough situations in the relationship.
Very nice. because most of the time that I would hear was listen to your gut feeling, listen to. I mean, when that person is mentally disturbed about whatever is happening in their life, the gut itself starts giving you some random advices. I don't think that we should follow ever. Well, when a person itself isn't sane, I don't think so the gut feeling will ever work. I think when you are calm and peaceful within, that's when you should listen to gut feelings. Or else I'd say people not to go with gut feelings, because this line always circulates saying, always listen to your gut feeling. Something is happening, or listen to your gut feeling. So I think in a relationship you should just know when you're insane.
That's a very valid point you brought out, my sweetheart. When the emotions rise, the intelligence drops. So the so-called gut feeling does not guide you in the right direction, because the gut is filled with fear, hatred. So you will attract only more fear and more hatred. So for you to really make any good decision, you need a good space of mind, and that will require some time. That will require a few practices.
I think that will require some healing, from our end. Okay, one final question on behalf of all my audiences. One message that you would like to give to all the marriages that are about to be breaking, because they've worked all the things out but it's not helping them out. So one message for them to give that hope.
I think there is a lot of support available in the world. At any point you feel that it is beyond your abilities to solve a problem, especially in a relationship, seek support. Not from your friends who have not been there, who have not seen that, who have not done that, but from people who have really sustained their marriage for 2-3 decades. Then you will come to understand that struggle is a natural part of any evolving relationship. Keep the communication open. Help the other person feel safe to express their fears, their challenges, their negative beliefs. And do something without talking. A lot of relationships break because we talk too much. Can you sit quietly and cook, play? Because if you can honor the child inside you and give the other person to bring their child inside outside, you will have a fantastic relationship. Relationships require work, period.
I think that's very true. Thank you so much for being on my podcast, and thank you so much for answering a lot of my questions and my friend's question, or the questions that I had received in my DMs. I think we did a good job.
Thank you.
Out. Lovely. I hope you loved this podcast, because we discussed a lot of things, and we'll be coming up with more series where we'll be talking about relationship, business, careers, and the parenting. And I really hope that this got something in you to again work on your relationship, to get back to the time, and then get that spark alive. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I'll see you on the next one.